Oh, hello again. Off-season Will here. Welcome to the second of 31 installments of Scouching's 2019 NHL Draft recap. Now, I haven't been the biggest fan of how Buffalo has drafted in recent years, and their record isn't the greatest outside of Rasmus Dahlin, and I feel like this year was a bit more of the same thing, but a little bit of a different flavor. Leading things off for the Buffalo Sabres was Dylan Cozens with the 7th overall pick. Now, I'm cooler on Cozens than most people, but I perfectly understand why Jason Botterill took this player. He's a big, strong, two-way center who I think projects as a good middle six player in the NHL one day. I don't really see top-line potential out of him like I did with some players here like Cole Caulfield or Trevor Zegras, but I do think he's going to be a very easily coachable, projectable player for the National Hockey League and the Buffalo Sabres. The Sabres really like size, and in terms of the players available here, Cozens is the biggest one. He shows nice flashes of size and skill, but in my viewings, I found him getting away a lot more with his size and strength, rather than someone like Kirby Dach, who is big, but plays a lot smaller than he is and brings a lot of skill to the position while still having the same level of size. But I do think Cozens will be a good player for the Buffalo Sabres, especially slotted in behind someone like a Jack Eichel. With their second first-round pick, the Buffalo Sabres, to some people, went off the board and picked Ryan Johnson. Personally, this doesn't particularly surprise me. He's a really responsible defensive defender in the truest sense of the word. He's great at choking off transitions and defusing pressure and moving pucks back up the ice, and he does have nice flashes of real skating and offensive ability. I think it's a fine pick, and if you can refine him into something a bit more reliable all of the time, I think you could have an interesting complementary defender here one day. I think he was really underrated this year, and the offense kind of lagged behind what I expected and saw with my eyes. I think he could be a player that over time develops offensive tools, but at least in the defensive zone, he's a good player. In the third round, the Sabres took arguably one of the biggest swings in the entire draft, drafting 6'6" goaltender Eric Portillo, a player who went undrafted last year and was extremely talented this season for Frölunda's super elite team. That league is no joke, and he was exceptional in that league. I'm really excited to see what Portillo can do over the next few years. With him and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen in the pipeline for the Sabres moving forward, those are two really interesting goaltending prospects and could form an interesting tandem to experiment with down the line. And honestly, I'm just glad they gave a player like Portillo a chance, a player who dominated the under-18 level last year and also was one of the best under-20 goaltenders this year. If he can carry that trend forward, whether it's with Frölunda's men's team or he's loaned to the Allsvenskan, he could be a really interesting player to watch for the Sabres and a potential steal in a draft where goaltenders were drafted higher that I wasn't as high on. At 102, the Sabres went with a player that I probably wouldn't have gone with at this pick, which is Aaron Huglin. Granted, there's really nice flashes of skill with Huglin. I saw it. It just wasn't really there a lot. You're hoping to capture something that you just don't see very much with him. I do think that over time, if you're patient, there could be a nice skilled player, especially after a few years in college, but I'm just not super sold at using a 4th round pick on this player. And with their last two picks, the Buffalo Sabres went with two overagers, Filip Cederqvist and Lukas Roušek. I know very little about Lukas Roušek, but I know someone who does, and I'll link the video in the description, so if you want to hear more about him, check that video out. Andy is a great resource. Cederqvist is a player that I am aware of and have seen a little bit of. He's a good possession player and really fit in on an SHL team this year, which is really nice and always worth a bet at some point in the draft. This is a low-risk area of the draft as well, and he did show nicely in terms of possession and driving shot differentials, and his production was fine as well, so I'm pretty interested in seeing where he goes with this pick, but it wasn't the biggest swing that they could have taken. So if you've seen any Scouching Report videos, we're going to port over the same rating system to this video. The number is going to indicate the overall level of potential that I see with the crop of players this team drafted, and the letter is going to indicate the likelihood of reaching that potential for this group as a whole. And in the Buffalo Sabres case, I'm going to have to give them a 3B. I really don't think that all of these players really have tremendously high ceilings. Dylan Cozens might if he can be a big, strong, two-way player in the next level, and I think it's perfectly reasonable to expect him to be a good number 2 center behind Jack Eichel moving forward. I just think that there's stuff that he gets away with in the WHL that he might have a hard time getting away with at the next level when players are bigger and stronger and older. However, guys like Ryan Johnson should be a good complementary player, and with overage players who produce against men like Roušek and Cederqvist, there could be interesting complementary players down the line one day. So that's all for the Buffalo Sabres. Next up, we're going to be looking at the New York Rangers. If you liked the video, you could click all the buttons you see below me so you never miss another video. If you really liked it, you could support us on Patreon, where you get access to spreadsheets for drafted and undrafted prospects, as well as things like discounts on merchandise, private chat rooms, and plenty of other goodies. Or you could pick up some merchandise from the Scouchwear shop. All the links are in the description. So thank you very much for watching, and be sure to catch me in the next video where we profile the New York Rangers.